Welcome back to more Auction Not Included for our Beginner's Guide. Last episode, we kind of went over the imperatives, the two we kind of had done. So we have sent a dupe through the temporal tear. They have been memorialized in our monument for Home Sweet Home. And we also went over on just setting up some interplanetary shipping. So we do have our shipping rocket fully operational now. They've been going back and forth for a while, so we have gotten all of our backlog of iron transferred over. So we should just be able to get a notification now that'll let us know when we have to send the rocket. We could set up a full thing with automation broadcasters, because we do have kind of a route to get from the frozen planet back to our main planet. But with how often we're going to send a rocket, we can just kind of manually ship them. And if we wanted to set up similar things for the superconductive and the swampy, that would not be an option. They are too far away. Besides that, we have been traveling around collecting all of the artifacts we need. So we have checked at least 10 space artifacts. And then we have 7 out of 10 for the terrestrial artifacts we need. I do have them all. I just disabled the building so we can kind of go through these here. So let's re-enable the building, because I was slightly incorrect. You may not need to land on every planet to get it done. We had a relic here we were able to collect. And then Grisona did not have one. Oxona didn't have one, but we had a free one on our planet, so that's how we were able to kind of get there. Depending on how things spawn, you may need to land on your other planets, because every planet you land on for the outer planets should have 1 to 2 on it. So we have our 1 that we had here. We had 2 that we collected here. Then we have landed on some of our other planets. So we did go to the Regulus planet. We were able to collect 2 here. One of them is just buried. We have been to the Swampy planet. We had 2 here. And then we have also been to the Moo planet, and we got 2 here. We are now on our way to the Superconductive, and I'll kind of just go over the other reasons to kind of land on the other planets while we wait for this here. This one I will cover kind of how to land on stuff, because this is probably the most difficult planet to land on. So a bit of a recap, the water planet, the main reason you want to come here is because you'll get a large influx of lime and fossil. You will also be able to get graphite, which you can then convert to fullerene for supercoolant. And as I said, depending on how your planet spawned, you may or may not need that to reach various outer planetoids. You will need it for some of the mining nodes if you want to collect them. For the purpose of space artifacts, we were able to get all 10 with things that would have been in range for a petrol rocket. For the coal planet, you will have to land on this planet to open the temporal tear. It also has your guaranteed iron sources. We have got these all running now. Where I have these lower ones running supercoolant, I could just open air these, but it is fine. And where we have a renewable iron source now, we are basically limited by the rate we can make lime to make steel. So I think we did our math with something like 46 kilograms per cycle of lime. So that's how much steel we can make. We still have... we have 18 tons of lime we still got to use. We got 28 tons of refined carbon. we have lots of steel for the foreseeable future. As for the other planets, they're not that much harder to land on than Toxona would have been. So with the Regolith planet, it's made known as very shallow and wide. You do want to make sure you bring material to build ladders with, because depending on where you try to land, your only ladder material here is going to be mafic rock. As for the reasons you want to come here, one, it is a renewable filtration medium source, because this planet constantly has meteor showers for regolith. Regolith and iron, I believe. Yeah, so ice, regolith, and iron. Does happen to have some steam vents. But the other big reason, pause here for a second, this is where you will find the neural vacillator. So we didn't use it here, but what this will let you do is you can have a dupe go into it and they will get a bonus trait. You know, one of them off the top of my head. So you can get one of 4 traits every time you use it, and you will always get a unique trait for it. So you can get beefsteak, which is plus 10 strength. Probably the main one that people want, which is deep diver's lung, which cuts oxygen consumption in half. Sunny disposition, minus 20% stress per cycle, and then regenerative, which is plus 20 health regen per cycle. All pretty good. I'm not 100% on how some of these may or may not work with bionics, but the way you were able... So if you want, you can make a bunch of super duplicates, give all 4 traits to all dupes in your colony. And the way you do that is by collecting artifacts, because every time you clear an artifact, you get a... Find them here. A vacillator recharge. I believe it might be on unique. Okay. You have a chance every time you check an artifact. I think for a unique artifact, you are guaranteed, and then you can see a lot of these respawn artifacts. You can get mugs for infinity, and those have a chance to get it. So if you do want to have a bunch of super dupes and whatnot, you can always make a trip to the Regolith planet. So before I kind of get into why you'd want to go to the moon and the swamp planet, let's get landed here. So we do have the remnants of our temporal tear. Fortunately, these will not melt. I believe it is... I think it is the same as planetary payloads to unopen it. We can just empty the storage. We'll keep an eye on that there. It is always my concern. It always seems to be your crashed rocket ends up there. So let's make a save. Same we do for every planetary landing. And see roughly where we want to go. So I'm thinking over here is where we're going to want to work. So we're going to put the rocket over here. So fortunately, we do have a lot of height. Like that, so I can roughly see where we got to line it up. And then our rocket's getting a bit toasty with how long it's been running, but we'll get John. John, deploy here. 2. John's off break. Okay, there's John. I've just always had bad luck with, if I don't watch them go out, they have a habit of not being in their suits sometime. I do have some automation I've added to rockets, which we may go over while we're waiting for some things to work here. So we're down. Construct. To get our last achievement, we have landed on all the planets. You can't get it with just landing with rovers. Okay, this is going to be a bit awkward to dig, because we need to get down to here. A good spawn for the niobium volcano. Also want to deconstruct this. All right. We need 35 for our rocket. Oh. Yeah, I don't know why they really like to go stand in magma when they're here and they have nothing to do. Is not ideal. Okay. Hopefully can reach it here. Like I said, John, don't know why they like to hang out in magma. I don't know if it's just something where they do it because they want a background tile. Trying to keep him out of the magma. There we go. Rocket to land here. So I don't need to clear these out now. See where we have to get rockets down. The main thing I wanted to make sure for material I brought here and the material you should bring here is make sure you bring obsidian. There's going to be a lot of it here, but we want to maximize where we can. Yeah, everyone's getting scalded because there's a very hot atmosphere around here. The big thing we got to watch for. Okay. We got everyone on this planet. So now we want to set up our safety stuff. Because the other things we want to watch out for here is it is very bright, so we'll get sunburned, and it's very irradiated. So to help with that, we do have rad pills, and they're allowed to eat rad pills. And unfortunately, I didn't think to bring solar panels. I never remember to bring solar panels, but what we're going to do... Manual airlock here. Just get our required buildings. We're going to build them out of steel. Biggest thing we got to watch for is stuff getting dropped. We can use a smart battery just because it bleeds less power. And then we're going to want our exosuit forge. And we also need some drywall. We're going to put an atmosphere in here to help a little bit with this stuff from frying. There we go. We'll slowly get an atmosphere with the gas we're taking out. So while they build this here, we'll go over kind of the other planets. Where didn't we go over yet? Right, the gassy moon planet. So, pretty self-explanatory. The main reason to go to the gassy moon planet is this is the only way to get gassy moons. It's probably the easiest way to get bracking if you want to mess with that resource. It can be fun for ranching. You make brack wax for your tubes. As well as with the new biodiesel rocket, if you ranch husky moose, that's an alternative needing to do hydrogen to get to some of the further outer mining nodes. They have most of the stuff they need here, so you'll get your gas grass here. There's usually a chlorine vent here. Yeah, because if you want to ranch gas grass, you need to work with liquid chlorine. And they're an interesting critter to work with. You kind of have to like ranch them in space. They're a bit different. And once again, we got 2 artifacts here. And then probably the next most important out of the keep an eye on our stuff here. Thought maybe we had damage there. So out of like the big 3 planets, which are going to be the Superconductive, I guess not. Anyway, it's an important planet to go to, the swamp planet. So it's pretty much always primarily a swamp biome along with some jungle biome here. Spawned a bit weird because we do have a frozen friend here, so we could pick up another dupe here. Unfortunately, they're probably just going to stay in here for the purpose of our playthrough. But there's 2 big reasons to come here. One, this is where the tree is, where if you feed it food, it will give you sap, which you boil the sap to get isosap, and you can use that to make it insulate and visco gel. The other big reason is this is where the tungsten volcanoes are. So if you're lucky, one of these may spawn outside the magma biome. If not, then they will spawn in the magma biome. There's our cosmic archaeology done. They're a big pile of artifacts. They're really good for decor. Usually I think if you go the route of more private bedrooms, then a lot of people kind of throw artifacts into each bedroom. I think a fun thing to do with them is where the toilet is for the Princeceptor, make a museum. In exploring this corner of the universe, we have found and assembled a collection of artifacts from another civilization. Studying these artifacts give us a greater understanding of who we are and where we come from. Only by learning about the past can we build a brighter future, one where we learn from the mistakes of our predecessors. So that is all the imperatives done. This is the point we could say we have won. We're finish our landing on Thermella. There we go there, and then we want to put a gas event here. That is... That copper is going to melt. It'll go to space, but this is why we want to build everything in steel. Relocate this rocket debris. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to collect heat. We're going to verify that. Okay, it's not grabbing heat because it's not an atmosphere. There we go. let's finish my thought before the thing happened. So yeah, if you're lucky, you may get a tungsten volcano outside of here, which be a bit easier, but we do know how to deal with the magma biome. We know how to work with magma. Once you clear it out, you would have the tungsten volcanoes, and then we could set up a system similar to Coldolan, where it'll just collect the tungsten and the isosap or whatever else we do, and we just send a rocket to pick it up every so often. The reason we'd want tungsten is it is one of the ways to get infinite thermium, because we use niobium and 5 kilograms of niobium and 95 of tungsten to make thermium. And then if we can't... Ah, somebody dropped a battery. Yeah, if a charge, I think even an empty one, if they get dropped in water, they will explode. Where that went. Anyway. If we smash the thermium, we get half it as niobium, and then the rest is sand. We could also take the thermium. Alternatively, we could take the thermium, refine it to niobium, and then this 100 kilograms of thermium can become 22 tons. Or you get smashing and get sand. But as long as we have renewable tungsten, we can make infinite niobium. The other way to get infinite niobium is this volcano. But we'll get into that. For now, we need to figure out how to get down here. So we don't want to be going through the magma. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pump it all. So an interesting thing about pitcher pumps is the only part of the pitcher pump that actually exchanges heat with anything are the top 6 tiles. Everything that the term spouts or siphons touch don't actually conduct heat. So what we can do, we'll make 2 just because we have a lot of dupes doing nothing. Make 2, we'll make them out of obsidian because overheat can be a concern. And then what we can do is we'll just get some bottle emptiers. We do want to get some of this obsidian. It's just so I have more building material, because we're going to need a fair amount. We already used a lot to build this little box. We can see here, they're just 45 degrees. Take this out just so we have more obsidian to work with, because we're going to need more for some other stuff. So conveniently, we do have some of it vacuuming out here. Actually, I don't want to build these tiles yet, because I want to dig out all the obsidian first. Take a little bit for those to get going. But besides making infinite niobium, the other reason tungsten is good is for building around busy rocket platforms. So big one I mentioned before, like automation wire. We can see like this automation wire is already up to 1400 degrees. This one that doesn't have a weight exchange heat, these are up to 2000. So you have a lot more automated rockets. Rockets launching constantly, not really doing anything, kind of cool your stuff down. Tungsten's really good for that because we could also, once we get more of it, we can make all of our heavy watt wire out of tungsten. Then we don't have to worry about that frying. That is the main appeal to tungsten, is that it will not melt in most situations. But it is relevant. It is only the fact that it won't melt. It only has a 50 overheat. So, like, you're not going to want to build... You're not going to use it in the exact same place as you would use steel. You'd use a lot of them the same, but not all the same. We did start our mining rocket out here. Get as much material as we can to work with. But yeah, we put our hydrogen rocket on a loop to mine. We're just mining this rocky asteroid. This way we have renewable igneous rock, sedimentary rock, bisylite, and granite. This is kind of the thing if you want to reach like true infinitely sustainable and stuff. Space mining is how you fill a lot of the holes and stuff you want to do. Because more or less you can probably find every resource you want from space mining. So this is our way we can get ore again. We can get slime and algae. This is how we get renewable fullerene. There we go. We just have our shipping rocket come down. This is why you made a copy for. I did do them backwards and had loaders, not unloaders. It usually takes about a cycle to get unloaded. Just I'm keeping an eye on this here. My understanding is automating will not summon my crew. But I wasn't sure why the last trip I sent went. For other things I corrected since the last episode, you may notice I have petroleum down here again. I had that all cleared out, and then apparently the flaw I did is originally my auto sweepers were here, which means they could not see this tile, which is why my slicksters were getting crowded, and I was having stuff like molten slicksters living long enough to cause problems. So we did flip these, and our slicksters are starting to get to like correct capacities now. Alright, so we got everything out from here. There we go. We got 30 tons to work with. Fortunately, didn't trap themselves. We're going to set these so they are all magma. Putting the roof over partly help with light, so our dupes are not getting sunburned. If they are in on the surface for too long and it's very bright, they can get sunburns. Not fun for them. Also to help with radiation, because I would like to keep our rads to a more acceptable point. These like this, and then usually about 2 layers should get it to a good point. You can see on the shovel planet, I did put the tile here to help with sunlight. This is another planet of, well, not right now. It is very hot here as well, where it's very wide. Your tubes generally get sunburned if have to travel a large amount of distance. Get all this here just for safety, and then now to help with this, we're going to set this to magma and enable auto bottle. We're just going to copy the settings. But we'll go pretty quick. They can move a lot of magma. We just have a tile here. That way the magma actually gets vacuumed to space. You can see with it going here, because there's a background tile, it will not disappear. We want to get all this magma out of the way. You can see with the double layers, now we're down to 60 rads per cycle. That's probably an acceptable amount. My main concern, or kind of a long-term thing I usually need to watch for in here, is that this doesn't get an atmosphere. You can see the granite would melt eventually. The doors shouldn't, but it's watching out for something like made up. It's mostly these ladders, where they're made of plastic. If they somehow get in contact with something, they will melt and become sour gas, and it'll cause a large amount of headaches. May want to try to get in there and see if we can prevent that. Because once you kind of open this up, you want this planet to forever be vacuumed if possible. But our main limiting factor all right, let's deconstruct our pitcher pumps. I'll keep going to get this here, but that's not going to move anywhere, so that's fine. Now we have the magma out of the way here. Can start working our way down. So I want to leave this line here, because I don't want to have to deal with this magma. We're going to dig this open a little bit. Basically, what our end goal is going to be to get down to here. But that's going to take a bit. The first thing we're going to want to do is just dig down this area. See how stuff goes. We may need to adjust. So our problem with the ladder here is I need to make room for the pitcher pump. So if eventually I want to go this wide, then we want to block off here. Dig these two out. Take that out of the way. We want to put a wall here so that we're not having to clear all of this magma out. We're not worried about the insulation. That's why we can just do regular obsidian tiles. Fortunately, this does mean we're only going to be able to fit one plumbing in. So because of how this is moving, I don't want to risk it getting hit, so we'll build it here. Oh, you got trapped. There's a way. They will find it. I'm thinking about it. We go over one more tile, then we can get 2 pitcher pumps. There is kind of a limiting. There is kind of getting forced through the vacuum. It's part of our limit to how fast we can move all this is going to be just how many bottle emptiers we have. So it is the thing of I don't want to drop the magma here because then that'll transfer around to all of this, but we could dump our magma here. And our ladder's out. I guess to help with that, we will isolate this away from anything we could potentially drop stuff on. That's always the risk if you dig all the way down. There we go. Be prepared on this planet to have to make an emergency triage cot. As you've seen before, your dupes love to be in the magma. It is their favorite place to be. All right. And deconstruct here. And then let's get our pitcher pumps. It'll take a bit. This is also demonstrating if you want to move a ton of liquid quickly, pitcher pump bottle emptiers, like it takes the dupe labor, but if you need liquid moved now, this is probably the ideal way to do it. Okay, let's get more there, because our limit to how fast they pump is the bottle emptiers. Because they're all moving about 200 to 800k. But they won't deliver it unless there's a bottle emptier that can take it. We're moving a lot faster now. See, we already took 3 tons. Oh, what do you know? The automating does summon my rocket eventually. Okay, we don't want it doing that, so... It's fine with space mining. The reason why is because there's not 27 tons here. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our shipping rocket. Way back on one way. Hey, head back. We'll just get rid of the automation there. This is not a rocket I need to fully automate. Something like 1.3, so 1.3 times 600. So it's 780. 27 tons divided by... Yeah, it takes like 35 cycles before we have to even go back. Or before we'll have a full shipment. So we don't need that automated. Mining's nice to have automated. We are moving this quick. Not ideal to get a little scalding. We'll keep an eye on things. One of the things I did do, I did notice a flaw to... built. Yeah, so Meep is quite scalded, so we maybe want to throw a triage down. Keep an eye on them. I did notice a flaw to kind of how I did this design. So what can happen, it doesn't happen often, is sometimes the exhaling, the dupe in the upper bunk will get caught by the gas pump, which then causes a wrong element error in our suits. So to get around that, I did do a rocket redesign because I'm realizing now this should have been the design I went with, because the entire reason I wanted to maintain having a Great Hall was because of a +4 morale, because I thought a mess hall only gave a +3, or +2, not a +3. So having a barracks and a mess hall is the same as having no barracks and a Great Hall. Then we also have a washroom. So this one here, we shouldn't ever have the issue of CO2 getting grabbed by this gas pump. This... Table you. So this one here, and this would work. Like, I have room to put the suits in. If this was the data bank, I could put the orbital data collection here. I could take this table out, put a telescope in. There's lots of options. A thing I did add it to some of my rockets is the star map location sensor. Just make it easier kind of getting stuff grounded and ungrounded. So, for example, with the shipping rocket, I have it set that... So the way it works is if this receives a green signal, restrict access. If it's a red signal, unrestrict it. So I realized an easier way I could have set this one up was just say, hey, if you were on the main planet, then restrict access. Maybe I want this going other places and doing other things. That'd be one way to do it. I have it set So if you're in space, or if you're docked and having this stuff loaded, then unrestrict access, because I don't have any systems on Cold Dolan. I think the correct way to set up a system like that there is with my colonization rocket, where it's just at restrict access when you're on the main planet. Because most of the places they land, I don't want to switch between grounded and ungrounded. Where with the mining rocket, where it's really only going to be either on a planet or in space, it does not need automation. Okay, we got all this dug out now. So let's deconstruct these. Doing pumps, you always have to do the further pump first. Dig this down. Am I gonna get more scaldings? Okay, so we are having some problems now. Fortunately, everyone's gonna lose their beds. Oh, that's what I wanted to avoid. Hopefully we can get to Meep in time. Triage caught. Build a set of igneous rock. Fear of using the obsidian. The obsidian's gonna be the super hot obsidian. What can they get to faster? We'll go with the obsidian. As long as they get it and start building it. Set the temp. Go get Meep. Hey, there we go. Meep is okay, but that's why you gotta treat magma with respect. The other advantage of the updated design is you can put 2 triage cots in it. The other thing, I mean, I'm kind of limited if I want to put a cot down, but with 1, we should be good. Our soup broke. But yeah, with the updated design, instead of 3 beds, this could be 2 triage cots. And I could still get 2 beds down. For now, we will assign Meep there until they're better. We'll take you out of this Atmos suit for now. Atmos suits behave weird in triage cots. Even though they're shown as being in it, they're not actually in it. Fortunately, we didn't get too many heat with the obsidian we grabbed. But okay. See if we can get the last of this blocked off. Is the annoying thing. There is, I think, using a star map locator along with a... I'm not sure how that grabbed the wrong element. But I think it's like I said, if the dupes kind of stand up here, it'll happen. That's why we updated the design. So we're not going to change it for kind of the existing rockets. But it'll probably be a thing I go over on after we get through all these. It's kind of like things we could have done better. Okay. A little bit for everyone to kind of heal up a little. Or what we can do... As long as I don't queue up a lot of these, they should be able to dig this out. Just so we can get this all out of the way. There we go. Now they're not traveling enough. That's an issue, but this will get it low enough that we can start clearing out the last piece. Like I said, it's just... gotta treat the superconductive with respect. Another thing is wherever you try to access kind of the lower part by, do not have your rocket anywhere near it. Like I said, it is, as soon as you get an atmosphere in here, your dupes will scald forever until it's vacuumed. Because, I mean, I think it's changed in the next patch, but like if there is any atmosphere, they will scald. I think you're just waiting to, yeah, fill your cargo bay. Once again, it is kind of a toasty design when you're running this long term. There's not a lot you can do to cool. You could throw in like a temp shift plate, kind of chill it, but it's just because this gas pump just generates a lot of heat. But yeah, it's dupes wanting to like hang up here is causing the issues. But it worked quite well for a long time here. Just this is a bit of a better design to go with. I think I took that tile out specifically to put the switch there and then kind of forgot about it. And then with this area being so compacted, then they shouldn't want to hang out there. Rod protection's not the greatest, but that big of a deal. As soon as we can get up to light wounds, we'll switch them out and then they can get their beds back. There's another situation why it's really good to have the somnium. Stress, really big issue. We get this down. Once we have that down, then we can start exploring in here. we just want to keep an eye. It's mainly these ladders. These ladders are what will cause problems. Nothing else should get hot enough to melt. Like, the steel won't melt. Everything else is obsidian. It is just these ladders. Because we really didn't even have to come here, because it is the coffee mug, which we have already found. The artifacts we need to grab for the purpose of the imperative, they do all have to be unique. It's why you may need to go further than where 10 dials can reach. You can see, like, not all of them are unique. Like, some I've been to, but, like, this one's a mug. It was always a mug. This one's a mug. This one's a mug. It's not here. There's a mug here. And how much do we got? 9 tons? Then I'll go quick. Okay. Here to light wounds. Let's switch you out with... Come on. Yeah, we can see her for the split second they get the intensely bright. If they're in that for a while, they get a sunburn. Is not fun. We just slowly get the magma moved, and then we can get down to all this delicious niobium. Now, we're not going to take this back with us. Because even those are there's not a lot of it. But we don't want to put this on our ship, because niobium is extremely conductive. Or no, I guess it's thermium is like super good. It's reasonably conductive. So we don't want to put this in our ship. The way we would get it off of here is we do a similar thing to what we're doing with our iron shipping. Is we just take a cargo ship. We'll set the infrastructure up before we leave to kind of get everything where we want it. But we would use a cargo bay and then transport that way. That way, all the material is in this cargo bay, not by our dupes. So we'll start throwing the stuff down to build that once we're just waiting on digging down. Does mean we are going to need a rocket port loader. We need to come back here and set some power stuff up, because we're going to need a loader so that we can put it on the ship, and then we're also going to need a better power source, which also means come back with glass. Or we can just run them off the wheels as well. We will just run things off the wheels. You can just use 2-strand. Or can I use 2-strand? How much power does a rocket port loader use? 240. Yeah, we can just use 2-strand. May not be ideal, but it'll be fine. We do need to adjust some stuff. Once we get the magma out of the way, we can clear some of this. This is very much going to be a system we are setting up more or less to just clear out a one-stop trip of niobium. It would not be something we want to set up long. It would not be long-term. If we wanted long-term, then we can set up a lot of solar and a cooling loop and all that there. But this is just to get a little bit of niobium to work with. Do have this one little blob here. Try to force this over or force it to flip. Do want to keep an eye on this battery if it's going up or down, even with 4 modules. Perfect. Construct these. So now we can just dig into this niobium. It's enough. We can just mop this now. There we go. We'll dig all the way down. Gonna get an idea of how much we have to work with. Is there anything we got to be worried about here? And then while we're also working on that, we will set up our stuff for a loader. Everyone can get their beds back too. What is this locker made of? Lockers are made of neutronium. Igneous rock, and then there we go. Everyone has beds again. Here's hot. I don't know how well this will work. Like I said, this is not for a long term. This is for I want the stuff off the planet now. This will let them sort of exchange heat. Could also just build them at a niobium. That'll give them like 500 degrees, but... when does niobium melt? Basically the same point as steel. You want to dig over this way just to make sure there's nothing here that's going to cause a problem. To make these out of aluminum might have been a mistake, but that's fine. Did get down to the bottom, so we do have all our niobium here. But the big thing I'm curious of is there something that's going to cause issue with the ladders? We get an idea of kind of where everything is here, and then like we can look at the rough math on just why you don't need to do the volcano. The volcano is a very cool project. It is something I would recommend you try to do when you're in kind of the super late game with nothing better to do. It's something to justify a lot of the space materials you're going to want to work on. It's not something you need, because like I'll do the rough math with just the niobium we're digging out right now. As long as everything in here stays in a vacuum, I shouldn't have to worry about anything. We'll just leave it as is. Nothing. Yeah, it's only these ladders I need to be worried about. Okay, so let's dig this all out. Probably more over here, but that'll take a little more work to get to. Could like dig across, make like in a tunnel through this obsidian. So dig it across to show why the niobium volcano is something to be afraid of. Our mining rocket came back. The thing to be aware of with automated rockets, it's more of a weird thing with round trips. It might only be with the robopilot, but I have noticed sometimes they can get misaligned on a reload. So instead of going to here, it ends up like somewhere nearby. Be aware of that. It's less of an issue with regular pilots, because usually the problem you run into with having to do a robo miner is it may not have the full data banks to do the trips. Those don't always get refilled to full compared to like your fuel, where it takes longer to unload these cargo bays than it does to fuel the rocket. I want to uncover the one tile to kind of... There we go. So niobium volcano. Yeah, so it comes out at 3,000 degrees, but this is the reason the niobium volcano is very difficult to tame. One, because of niobium just being very thermally conductive. Like, we compare it to 0.65 and 54. If we compare that to steel, I think that's the closest. Yeah, it has like half the capacity of steel. But the reason why, it comes out at 280 kilograms a second when it's erupting. For comparison, that is like 30 times what our metal volcanoes do. So, like, this design isn't going to work for it. And then the other thing, so if we compare it to, say, the minor volcanoes, so it's closer to a regular volcano. Well, why couldn't we do a dropper? The reason we can't get away with a dropper is, you may notice, all these niobium patches are only like very low kilograms. It takes a very low mass for niobium to become a solid tile. So we would need to design something very specific to this if we wanted to tame it. Why it is very much a late game project, and because of how hot it comes out at, this is one of the few things where you are going to want to insulate. Ceramic doesn't really cut it. Anyway, but we probably don't need to do it, because right now we have 2 tons of niobium. It only takes 5 kilograms to turn it into 100 kilograms of thermium. So if we divide this by... So we could make 463 units of thermium, which is 46 tons of thermium, which we could then run through our metal refinery to make 46 tons of niobium, and then turn to thermium. But we need renewable tungsten, but we can get that. We could then work on getting the 3 tungsten volcanoes on Rikila. We could also find it, depending on how we want to do it. We could be going to the glimmering asteroids. We can get wolframite, which comes tungsten. We also get molten tungsten from here. So it's not something we need to do. It's a project. If you want an endgame goal of using everything you've learned and mastered, niobium volcano. But for the purpose of most stuff, we just hit this. So to help with moving everything back, we're just going to put an auto dispenser up here. We're going to set this to sweep only and niobium. I'm going to double check that I didn't have a sweeper in here that was going to grab obsidian. We'll go grab all our niobium so that when we send a shipping rocket here, it can just load it all up on a cargo transport. But that's the superconductive. Like I said, it looks like we didn't have to come here because it is only the office mug that was here. But you do need to land on for the achievement, and it is how you get one of these space sciences. But of the planet, it is probably the most unsafe to land on. Just because your dupes love to stand in magma. Anyway, we'll get this all swept up. We'll get a probably just change around the exploration rocket to be a shipping rocket. We got a lot of stuff to clean up on our rockets, but that is it for the imperatives. We are more or less done. We have done the 3 major goals. We can do whatever we want now. Like, we are in the true end game at this point. We've been there for a while. We solved all of our resources. But this is kind of everything you really need to know for the end game. We still have a few more things I do want to go over. Just things I kind of skipped over for other stuff, just because we didn't need to do it, or we kind of made do. Which are going to be, 1, building a better rocket platform. Mostly using that information for Greasona to deal with this mess that you may need to deal with on some planets. And then also probably the last resource we need to get at industrial scale, which is radiation. And that'd be kind of everything for the beginner guide. So there we go. We got everything swept back. So let's summon our crew. Sure, everyone can get back. Acknowledge our warnings. Yeah, because of the exhaust here, you don't want this out the way. We'll see. Make sure. The thing on watchboard. Make sure our wires don't melt. Probably all of our stuff in here is going to break because of the heat. Like I said, this is all very a temporary system. If we want to be here long term, solar panels, make a cooling loop, all that there. But it's very much get the niobium we need. And then this is a project you could tackle if you wanted to set up long term. But anyway, that is all of the various planets. We've been everywhere, kind of gone over why you'd want to go to them. And yeah, at this point here, I think we'll finally make a good rocket platform, and kind of things to keep in mind with that there, which is relevant for usually your non-starting planetoids, anywhere you get meteors that you're actually going to want to leave stuff on. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching.